Somebody was removed? ആരെങ്കിലും റിമൂവ് ചെയ്യപ്പെട്ടോ ഫ്രണ്ട്സ്?
അറിയില്ല സർ.
ലാവണ്യ യെസ് ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തു. ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ. ലാവണ്യ റിമൂവ് ചെയ്യപ്പെട്ടോ? ലാവണ്യ നന്ദന റിമൂവ് ചെയ്യപ്പെട്ടെന്ന് തോന്നല്ലോ. ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തവര്?
ഇപ്പൊ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തു. നന്ദന ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തു.
ഓക്കെ 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 ഫ്രണ്ട്സ്, all of you, welcome to this lecture series on political ideology. Today, this evening, we are going to talk about a very interesting theme: feminism. So this is a lecture about the fundamentals of feminism. So the title of this lecture is Feminism, the Fundamentals. Feminism as a political ideology was evolved in the 28th century. And the word became popular since 1960s. Feminism as an ideology is defined by two important beliefs. What are them? First thing, that all the feminists in the world assume that women face disadvantages because of their sex. Second belief, women can overcome their disadvantages. And friends, feminism as a political ideology is characterized by a diversity of views and political positions. Diversity in the sense that feminism or women's movement broadly has been following a range of issues. They were highlighting a range of issues, from women's right to vote and presence of women in the public domain to ideas like legalization of abortion and the ending of female circumcision. So in between, you will see a range of issues being raised by feminists, because there are so many versions of feminism. Like there are so many political ideologies, say liberalism, socialism, fascism, conservatism. So feminism is also characterized by these diversities. Feminism can be traced back to ancient Greece or ancient China. Its intellectual origin can be traced back to our antiquities. In the year 1405, Christian de Pisan has written a book titled Book of the City of Ladies. This book contains many ideas which later feminists used to advocate. However, the first ever book which can be considered to be feminist was written in the year 1792. Mary Wollstonecraft, a French woman, has written Vindication of the Rights of Women. She has written this book in the sidelines of French Revolution. So by mid 19th century, women's movement had acquired a central focus all over the world. The campaign for female suffrage, women's right to vote, and women's right to vote was inspired by the idea of men's right to vote. And friends, this 19th century advocacy for women's right to vote was considered to be first wave of feminism. It originated in France. Later, it went to USA in the 1840s, and in UK in the 1850s. So the first wave of feminism achieved its goal in the sense that women's suffrage movement has been accepted by governments. And the first country in the world which granted suffrage to women was New Zealand in 1893. In 1920, the US Constitution granted right to vote for women. 1918, the UK extended right to vote for women. So friends, for a long time, feminists in the world believed women's problems can be solved if they get right to vote. That's why it is said to be first wave of feminism. But some feminists were not satisfied with this idea. And in 1960s, their dissatisfaction resulted in the second wave of feminism. This wave of feminism originated with the publication of a famous book by Betty Friedan, The Feminine Mystic, that she stated women has a problem with no name. The frustration and the unhappiness many women experienced was a result of being confined to the roles of housewife and mother. So second wave feminism began to gain visibility in the 1960s. And in 1970, Kate Millett published Sexual Politics. Germaine Greer published The Female Eunuch in 1970. So the goal of second wave of feminism was not simply political emancipation of women, but rather liberation of women. So political emancipation and women's liberation are two different ideas. And by 1990s, women's movement began to enter into another wave because of the diversity of thought that not all women share same problems in all part of the world. This idea was rejected. That sisterhood is a myth. A woman in New York and a woman in Budapest and a woman in New Delhi do have different issues. Their issues are not common. So this idea got credibility since 1990s. So feminists began to believe that there is no common ground for women. That's why since 1990s, you can see feminism began to diffuse into so many areas, such as, postmodern feminism, psychoanalytic feminism based on Freudian psychology, black feminism based on color, skin color, lesbian feminism based on, sexuality. But friends, we are not supposed to go through all these areas within this short span of time. We can go to some founding assumptions of feminism as a political ideology. There are some founding assumptions. And these founding assumptions, I will talk about 4 principles in this lecture. First one is the personal is political. Personal is political. Second, patriarchy. Third, sex gender differences. Fourth, equality and difference. These are 4 fundamental areas, concepts upon which feminism as a political ideology attain a distinct existence in society. So we can find a range of common ground within feminism. Though feminists believe that there is no common ground for women all over the world, we can identify certain consensus among feminists within feminism, and that one of the important consensus among feminists is the idea of redefining the political. Redefining the political. So let us examine what does it mean to say the redefining the political. Friends, let us understand what is political. Traditionally, in all societies, we believe that being political means affairs that appears in the arena called public, not the private. Anything and everything that appears in the so-called public are said to be political, and everything that appears in the so-called private are personal. So this distinction has been in human society ever since enlightenment. There is a public sphere and a private sphere, and government is in the public sphere, not in the private sphere. So you have governmental institutions, political parties, pressure groups, debate, dialogues, political activities. These are all public and these are all political. And one important thing you have to note in this distinction is the family life. Traditionally, family life remains outside the political. Personal relationships normally were thought to be a part of private sphere, not public sphere. And therefore, what happens in the family, what happens in the private sphere remains to be non-political. So modern feminists, on the other hand, reject this distinction. They insist that politics is an activity. As an activity, it takes place within all social groups. It takes place within all social groups and is not simply confined to things that are related to government. Politics is everywhere where there is conflict, where there is social conflict. Wherever you go, you can find politics if there is some kind of social conflict exists. Kate Millett, who wrote Sexual Politics, has said once that politics is power structured relationships, arrangements, whereby one group of persons is controlled by another. So friends, feminists argue that sexual inequality has been preserved in society precisely because the sexual division of labor that run through our society is natural rather than political. That is, feminists argue why society preserve a sexual division of labor in our society. That why people preserve the sexual division of labor in our society. It is because most people consider this sexual division of labor is natural rather than political. So traditionally, public life, where politics takes place, work takes place, art and literature takes place, has been always historically a domain of men, That's why we can say the public man and the private women. The public man and the private women. What is the public man? The man in the politics, the man in the politics, man in the education, man in the job or careers, man in the art, man in the literature. So historically, traditionally, throughout human life, throughout human history, men were always in politics, education, career, art, literature. And what about, private women? Private women. Women were always private, not public, historically and traditionally. And the private women were in the family always, ever, unchanging. And they were all supposed to have the basic trait of a woman, caring. Care is a character trait of women, not men. So society believes. So child rearing, domestic work, household chores, these are associated with, private women, not public men. So this is the type of sexual division of labor in society. And this has been validated, defended by saying that this division is natural, not socially created. And feminists challenged this idea. They challenge this division between public man and private women. So radical feminists, they were the keenest opponent of this idea that public man and the private women, the sexual division of labor. And they never believed that politics stops at the front of your home door, at the front door of your home. They proclaimed famously the famous phrase that the personal is political. That was one of the famous phrases in the whole of political ideology debates. One of the beautiful sentences in the history of political ideology. The personal is political. So that's a second wave or radical feminist argument. A radical feminist argument. So radical feminists were concerned with the politics of everyday life. They were concerned with the politics of everyday life. It includes a conditioning of the family. You have to condition family. If you want to make a society more women friendly, first you condition your family. First you change your family first. Without changing the situation in the family, no progressive changes can be expected in the society. Change should first come from the family. Change should first come from the family. So you distribute household work among both men and women. Let the men in the family do works in the kitchen. Let the men be a child rearer, child caregiver. So feminists began to break down this public-private debate and started transferring responsibilities of private life to men. So this is one important founding assumption of feminism, that men should also take responsibility in the private sphere. And private sphere is not the responsibility of women alone. This, caregiver, women as caregiver, women as, nurturer, fostering child or children, cleaning, all these household works are to be equally shared. So this is the first one of the founding assumptions of feminism, friends. Then the second, assumption of feminism is about patriarchy. So feminists believe that gender is like social class or race or religion, is a politically significant social division. Gender is a very important social division in society. Just like you say, class divisions or racial distinctions, or caste distinctions, or religious differences, the Hindus, the Muslims, or the Christians. So they have strong differences. So upper caste and lower caste, strong differences. White, white man or black man. These are, strong differences. Just like that, man women differences are very strong. Gender differences. So feminists argue gender is the deepest and most politically important social cleavage in the society. So therefore, feminists argue they advance a theory of sexual politics. This is called sexual politics. So they are saying sexism is a form of oppression. Sexism draws a close parallel with racism or racial oppression. That is, man oppressing women just because of their gender is just like an upper caste oppressing a lower caste, or a white man oppressing a black man. So feminists therefore used a concept called patriarchy. The word patriarchy describes. The word patriarchy originated from the Latin word pater, P-A-T-R. Pater means father. So patriarchy is used to describe the power relationship between man and woman in society. So feminists believe that the dominance of father within a family symbolizes male supremacy outside family. That almost all institutions that exist outside your family is also characterized by this dominance of father within family. That everywhere in society there is the supremacy of the father, because that notion begins from family. So patriarchy, therefore, is the idea that feminists believe it is ruled by men. Patriarchy is the idea that it is ruled by men. So within our family and outside, so everywhere in society, we can see there is rule by men. So Kate Millett described patriarchal governments. Our governments are patriarchal. Patriarchal governments as an institution whereby half of the population which is female is controlled by half which is male. So she says patriarchy contains two principles. Kate Millett says patriarchy contains two principles. What are them? That is, first one, male shall dominate female. Male shall dominate female. First one. Second, elder male shall dominate the younger. So patriarchy therefore is hierarchic. Patriarchy therefore is hierarchic. A hierarchic society characterized by both sexual and generational oppression. That elder men oppresses younger men, and men oppresses women. These two things are involved in patriarchy. Because feminists say, as there is patriarchy everywhere, there is patriarchal family and there is system of male power. Patriarchal family, that husband or father dominates. Husband or father. So either husband dominate or either father dominates wife and children. And this dominance is also there in the society. How? That male power dominates in education. Male power dominates in workplace. Male power dominates in political sphere, in political activities. Male power dominates in public life. So, feminists, particularly radical feminists, see patriarchy as systemic, institutionalized, and pervasive form of male power, systematic, institutionalized, and pervasive form of male power that is rooted in the family. Friends, it's a very important point. If there is patriarchy in your society, it is because you are living in a patriarchal family system. Patriarchy begins only from family. First, it begins from family, then it extends to society. So, patriarchy thus expresses the belief that the pattern of male domination and female subordination is essentially a reflection of the power structures that operates within domestic life. So feminists therefore attack a dominant notion in our society. What is it? That is, man-women differences are natural. This is most people in our society argue when some women stand up and say that I want this right or I want that liberty. All of a sudden, some men stand up and argue and attack those women, saying that men are men and women are women, because men have these natural differences and that they have this strength that is natural. So women are different and they are always subordinate to men because nature has created men and women differently. And this notion in the society is attacked by feminists. This is a wrong notion. A woman's physical and anatomical makeup, think most people in society, is suited to subordination and domestic role in society. This is what most of us believe, that a woman's physical and anatomical makeup is suited to subordination as well as household chores. That's why most people believe in our society that biology is destiny of women. Friends, this notion is shattered by feminists. Feminists insist that in no way do such biological facts necessarily disadvantages women. Women may be mothers, but they need not accept the responsibilities of motherhood. Women may be mothers, but they are not supposed to take over the charge of motherhood. Motherhood is being attributed to women by society, not by nature. That motherhood is a socially given character trait. This is not nature given character trait. What is motherhood? That you are nurturing, you are educating, you are raising children by devoting your full time at home and family. This is motherhood, and you glorify it. Amma, Amma. Right? You all say Amma and glorify that word. So it's a technique used by men to subordinate women. So the link between childbearing and child rearing is cultural rather than biological. That you are, childbearing is a natural fact, but child rearing is a social fact. This child rearing can be taken over by men, but men are not ready. Men are not, caregivers here. And in every society, women are expected to stay at home Women are expected to stay at home, bring up the children, look after the household works, and domestic responsibilities are given to women only. So this system should be destroyed. Feminists argue this system should be destroyed, and men should take responsibility. Men should be child rearers. Of course, men cannot bear up children, but they can be good child rearers. You take responsibilities. So, friends, feminists challenged the notion of sex and gender differences in society. The sex and gender differences in society. Sex and gender differences in society. That is, biological differences between female and males. These differences are natural and therefore unalterable. This is wrong. Feminists argue. This is socially constructed notion. Most important sex difference are those that link to just one behavior. What is it? Most important sex difference, biological sex difference or natural sex difference, is related to only one aspect of human life, that is called reproduction. Only in that area, men and women are different. Right? That men got a penis and women got a vagina and a breast. And there is not much differences between man and women outside this penis or this vagina or breast. And all other differences are socially created. So gender, therefore feminists say, it's a cultural term, not a natural term. Sex is biological because your genital organs are different. But gender, on the other hand, is a cultural term. Gender refers to different roles that society ascribe to men and women. That a women should behave this way and a man should behave this way. And society has created cultural stereotypes or gender stereotypes. What is that? So a woman should behave this way. That is called femininity. And a man should behave this way, masculinity. Men should not cry. Crying is a great human habit. If you cry, that means you are a very good human being. But in our society, men crying is considered to be very bad. That is considered to be weakness. So it's a cultural stereotypes. A crying human being is always a good human being. But men never cry in our society because that is not part of what may be called masculinity. So that's why famously the French feminist Simone de Beauvoir famously pointed out that women are made, they are not born. The famous statement by French feminist Simone de Beauvoir, that women are made, they are not born. So friends, most feminists believe that sex differences between men and women are relatively small. As I told you, that you have only differences in terms of your genital organ. So that's biology. And that difference is just, a minor difference. But friends, but society consider this difference is such a big difference. Consider this a big difference. As a result, human nature is thought to be androgynous. 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 That is, all human beings, regardless of sex, possess a generic inheritance. That you all, friends, you all are androgynous. That means you all have a female trait and a male trait in your body. Your body got both female character traits and also male trait. If you consider a man has female trait and a male trait. If you consider a woman got female trait and male trait. And all person in this world, all human being in this world are a blend of both female and male attributes. So women and men therefore should be judged not by their sex but as individuals or as persons. So therefore feminist looks at achieving a genderless personhood, that we need a genderless personhood. So friends, although most feminists have regarded sex and gender distinction as common, some people have attacked it. Some people have attacked this distinction, that is sex and gender are different. For example, there is a type of feminist called difference feminist. Difference feminist. What is difference feminist? Difference feminist suggests that there are ineradicable difference between women and men. There are ineradicable difference between men and women. So this is an essentialist position. Essentialist position means you cannot alter it, this difference. So when you think about equality in society, when you think about equality between men and women in society, first you have to understand that men or women are different. So therefore, in order to make an equal society, women should be given more priority because their differences are naturally made differences, and this is essential. These differences are essential. But friends, you remember Gauri Amma. Gauri Amma once famously said that I don't need any maternity leave. Why? I am able to do it my own. So I don't think women should be given maternity leave. But this is an idea called equality feminism. That what is equality feminism? That women think that they are equal vis-a-vis men, and they can do all the things that men can do. This is called equality feminism. But difference feminism are different. Why? Because difference feminism believe that women are basically different. Women are menstruating, so you should give menstrual leave to women. You should give menstrual leave to women. Women are different because they have childbearing capability. So you should extend more maternity leave to women. So you should give more privileges to women because their makeup is different vis-a-vis man. This is called difference feminism. But friends, there is another type of feminist called postmodern feminist. They have rejected the very notion of sex itself. That that a genital organ, that a female genital organ or a male genital organ, they never believe they are different. They are same. Its shape is different, but they're natural. They are naturally created. There is not much difference between a male genital organ and a female genital organ. So all this difference that you say that men and women are biologically different are cultural stereotypes. This is what postmodern feminists argue. So this biological womanhood. So this biological postmodern feminists argue that this biological womanhood that you argue cannot be applied to all the women. They argue that you are saying that women got a particular biological womanhood, that women are childbearing. But not all women can be clubbed into this type of women. That's why some women cannot bear child. Some women cannot bear children. Some women are not sexually attracted to men. Some women are asexual. So then how do you say that women got this particular trait called biological motherhood? This is a cultural stereotypes. There is no such a thing as a female, a biological male and a biological female. This is cultural stereotype. This is what postmodernists argue. But anyway, friends, The sex gender debate is one of the fundamental of assumptions of feminism. So I have told you, uh, one is personal is political, second is patriarchy, third is sex and gender, and finally equality and difference. Equality and difference. Friends, traditionally, women demanded equality with men. Women demanded equality with men. However, the issue of equality, the issue of equality has also exposed major fault lines within feminism. It also exposed major fault lines within feminism. What is it? Equality means equal access to the public realm. Equality means equal access to the public realm. Socialist feminists, in contrast, argue that equal rights may be meaningless. Equal rights may be meaningless unless women unless women also enjoy social equality. So equality in this sense has to apply in terms of economic power, and you have to apply this idea to things like ownership of wealth, pay differences, and distinction between waged and unwaged labor. So one day, what happens to your family if your mother is not going to the kitchen? She is on a strike. What happens to your family? Your family as an organism will not function. Why men marry women? Because men marry a slave. Who is the slave? The wife. Because he is marrying a woman to his kitchen. What happens in the kitchen? Throughout her lifetime, she is using her labor without any wage, receiving any wage for the labor she has given in the kitchen. So this situation should be changed. If you are not able to change this kind of social inequality, your talk about equality is meaningless. So radical feminists are primarily concerned with equality in family and in personal life. It is very important for them. So in terms of child care and other domestic responsibilities, and also about control on one's body and sexual expression and fulfillment, a woman should get freedom. That is what radical feminists argue. So equality feminism links differences to patriarchy. Equality feminism links differences to patriarchy, seeing that difference is a manifestation of oppression or subordination. Difference is a manifestation of oppression and subordination. From this viewpoint, friends, the feminist project is defined by the desire to liberate women from difference. You have to liberate your women from the notion of difference. So difference feminists argue that the very notion of equality is misguided. You should never think about equality. Why? Because if you want to be equal, suppose you are saying that I want to be equal, your inherent notion in your mind is that women are male identified, that you want equality vis-a-vis men, that you are defining your personhood, you are defining your identity vis-a-vis men. Women are different and men are different. Why are you thinking about equality? You think about that difference. That difference is very important, and recognize that difference. So the demand for equality therefore embodies a desire to be like men. The demand for equality therefore embodies your desire to be like men. It's a wrong assumption that this difference feminists argue. This is a wrong, very wrong assumption. So you liberate the means of achieving fulfillment as a woman. You should be female identified. You should be female identified. So difference feminists are therefore pro-women. They are pro-women. They have a pro-women position, which accepts that sex difference have political and social implications, social and political importance. That sex difference is a very important difference, and society should recognize that difference and accept that difference. So, to idealize androgyny, or personhood and ignore sex difference is therefore a mistake. This is what friends, equality and difference difference feminists argue. So friends, with this I am ending this lecture on the political ideology of feminism. This is a core thrust area of a feminist debate, and now the floor is open for discussion, friends. Yes, you can have questions.